getting into this. And again, Echo is a much smaller map. It's a very linear map as well. So Seryph might be feeling a bit more comfortable on this, as it's not like your natural is kilometers away in a whole other country. It's very close to you. It's a lot easier to manage. Being on the 3 bases or the 2 bases, as your natural and third are directly connected to, or not directly connected by ground, but at least by air to your main base. So, for example, if oracles come in, they have to go through somewhere else to get into the main, and it just makes it a lot easier when it's like, okay, I have to defend front, then I fall back and defend the back.
Well, starting the game off, we're going to go ahead and spawn on our green Protoss player. It is Believe, and he's going to go ahead and start by sending a drone out a probe out as quickly as possible. I keep calling them drones because they're robots, but whatever. And sending the probe out to go ahead and scout out his opponent, who happens to be in the upper left corner. Who's he playing against?
Well, he is playing against our yellow Terran. He is currently down 0-1. It is Seryph.
And as things get started, the economy going slightly in Seryph's favor because he's got 1 extra worker on the minerals compared to what Believe has. But Believe is going to steal some minerals, I guess, is a good start, and then put down the proxy pylon. So it's not a mind game or anything that he was playing. He's going for the exact same cheesy, aggressive stuff right in the middle of Seryph's 3rd expansion.
Yeah.
That's just mean.
We'll have to see this time. Does the wall off happen? As if it does, that makes things a lot easier to deal with. It is going to be just a single gateway, yet again from Believe. Now, this is just a lot safer of a build to do. As a Protoss player, it provides you extra money to get your tech up and going. As if he had gone for the double gateway last game, he was not going to be able to live. Now, this time around, Seryph, he's throwing down a refinery. He's probably going to be getting a Reaper very quickly. And Reapers, they can't really deal with Zealots as well.
No, they can't. Like you mentioned before, they don't deal enough damage to kill off Zealots. Zealots are way too tanky, and they can do a lot of damage in return. But what's the interesting about the placement about this proxy pylon is that it's kind of out of the way. Like this drone, this SCV, even if it was going out to scout, would normally just scout along the middle, but Seryph, being the intelligent player that he is going to send his drone, his SCV, right up to the ramp, and he's going to immediately spot it. He's got to be panicking at least a little bit now. He's got to go ahead and start moving something towards blocking off that wall. But already 1 Zealot's out, and Seryph is a little bit behind on the wall building right now. And there goes the wall. But it's going to take some time to build up. And while we're on it, the first Marine just only made it out right now. So we'll see whether or not these Zealots are going to be enough.
Well,
what do you think?
We're in a very similar position to last game where, you've got a bunker up, you've got a supply depot, and this kind of proxy gateway shenanigans, you have to wait for the second Zealot to come out. You can't just go very quickly. I feel if the first Zealot had just gone on its own, it would have been able to deal a lot more damage, but right now we've got 2 Marines in the bunker versus just 2 Zealots. He's not going to be able to do too much. Going to pull back. But we've got Stalkers on the way this time, and he's not going to be backing up too much, it seems. Yeah, he's actually going to be going for a round 2 up against this.
Well, whatever this is, Seryph is also building a command center, so it seems like oh, there's an SCV, and it's in the wrong part of town as the Stalker begins to chase it down and deal some distinct damage to it. It's down to 15 life points. The Stalker should be able to take it out within the next couple of attacks. Now, on the home front, we got Chrono Boost coming out. We got both the assimilators coming out for Believe and his Protoss. How hard do you think that Believe should commit to this kind of early game shenanigans that he's been doing so far? Oh, and the SCV is going to end up going down, so he's not going to scout anything.
I feel like Believe shouldn't actually be committing to this too much at all, as... again, last game, he was able to succeed because of the fact that he pulled back when he realized the attack had failed. Now, having just a few units out here by the natural, that's perfectly fine. Your gateway's all the way over there anyways, so they may as well be across the map. And since there appears to be wanting to get a second base very quickly, it will also be helpful because you contain the Terran player up into their main base for quite a while, since they won't really be able to put down that command center very safely.
Like that point that you just made is actually really, really interesting because now I'm thinking once this command center is finished being built, if ever Seryph decides to try to bring it in, he's gonna have to bring a significant force with it because lying in ambush, we got 2 zealots and 3 stalkers, soon to be 4, that are just waiting to pick off anything that gets close. And there's going to be a mothership core that's going to be coming to help out as well. Believe just being scouted a little bit because of Comcast there doing its usual thing, managing to scan that there is in fact a nexus being built on the expansion. So what's that going to tell Seryph? Is the question here.
Won't actually tell him too much, as you said. It kind of got scouted, but there wasn't really anything in the range of that anyways. The mothership core is going to be coming up here, and this is the scouting that he wanted, but he didn't get. The Muda mine should get targeted down. It's going to be fine, and though it will not get a shot off this time around, which is good, as before it had dealt a lot of damage to the stalkers and the mothership core. But this time the mothership core, full health, full energy, or almost full energy, does get targeted down by Marines. Will be able to live.
Yeah, the mothership core just barely going to survive that. But all things considered, that was a pretty good exchange for the Protoss player. In fact, so far it's been a net all positive. No units have been lost yet, and they're just taking out these supply depots, slowly and surely just poking away, forcing the Marines outside of their bunkers in order to deal them some damage. And the Marines do have a medevac to back them up, but there's just too much damage on the return front. There's going to be a couple more that end up going down. So that's so far really good. The wall has been broken, and there is so far the units that have been used to break down that wall haven't needed any real reinforcements, and they're just gonna back right off. They've done what they needed to do. They did some damage to the economy. They forced some SCVs to come in and repair buildings, and they're gonna have to force them to rebuild another supply depot to make up that wall if they want to build it again. In the meantime, Believe has just been sitting pretty with all of his stuff, building away, doing his thing. He's got himself a couple of warp gates. His forge is up and running. It hasn't been upgrading anything yet that I can see, but he's getting Blink going. He's got a robotics bay being built. What do you think Believe needs to do right now in order to try to get these Terran players out of the tournament? Get Seryph out of the tournament, sorry.
Right now, he's doing exactly what he needs to. He got an expansion behind that last attack, and that allows him to just completely get a lead in economy. He's going to be getting Blink and getting some upgrades. He's also got a Warp Prism on the way, so I feel like we'll be getting some Zealot drop shenanigans, maybe use it as vision, and then later reinforcements for the Blink Stalkers as well. And Seryph right now, I'm going to be trying to saturate his natural, but Believe we'll be keeping tabs on him with this Observer. Is actually able to see pretty much everything he needs to know from the natural.
And that's kind of important. All things considered, the more knowledge you have, the more powerful you can possibly be. And this small army just going to go ahead and completely tear apart this now completely not functional warp gateway. It's going to end up going down. Right now, things are looking really good for Believe. But I think that Seryph did a good job of eventually pushing off the attack, and he's starting to recover nicely, which is good. He's now got his second expansion up and running. He has plenty of mules helping him to bring him back into the game for at least the next couple of seconds. And he's building a lot of barracks and a couple of refineries, like 3 barracks right on his natural expansion. What is going through Seryph's head right now?
Well, he's reached that point where he's going to start having a lot of money, and he needs to be able to spend it right away. But right now, we've got 4 Zealots. Oh, only 2 Zealots, actually. The Warp Prism going down extremely quickly from the missile turret. And these Zealots are going to be trying to deal as much damage as they can. We'll start focusing down the SCVs now. And so far, 9 workers killed. Single Zealot will remain, but it's going to be going down to the Marauder and a couple of Marines. So 9 workers killed there. Not quite what he was hoping for. He would have been able to get more should he had all of his Zealots, but unfortunately, can't always have what you want.
No, you can't. And in this case, he got just enough knowledge to see that there was a Colossus waiting for him in that base. He sent 1 Marine to go and do his things, and they left one of their friends. No, the little Marine screamed as he goes burnt to a crisp. Unfortunately, not quick enough to get in the medevac before his burnt corpse hit the ground. So that could have been a very bad situation had he not scouted that with the Marine, but Seryph, being very, very wise, playing it safe, sending only 1 Marine up the ramp to see what was waiting for him that the Protoss player that Believe had ready laying an ambush. But in this case, now that Believ's chased them across the map, they're going to do their best to just harass and put some pressure and try to keep Seryph right where he is. Not that Seryph's too sad about where he is. He's got his third expansion now sitting there waiting for SCVs to come and work for him. And on the bottom side of things, there's a Marine just kind of sitting there in the expansion. It was shooting things, but now it's very dead. The Zealot decided to go ahead and take him out.
Well, right now it does look like Seryph getting that third command center up and down on the floor where it needs to be will be helpful. He's going to start muling it up. And for right now, on the flip side, Believe he's going to be getting charged, going to be getting +1 weapons. As right now, he's only sitting at the +1 armor, but that is still more upgrades than his opponent. However, his opponent's got 30 more army supply than Believe does, so has to be a little careful, especially with all of these Widow Mines just placed around the map. Blink Stalker, you've got to be sure that when you blink, that is where you want to blink, as it's very possible you could end up needing to blink away from a Widow Mine very soon.
This is a really big army coming out of the Terran force right now. Seryph looking like he wants to set up an attack, and he's moving that way too, going towards Believe's side of the map. He's going to avoid the middle to maybe come across the side. There's a couple of Widow Mines. The Stalker's going to blink away, take out one of the Widow Mines, but it's going to end up costing one of their own number as they quickly scurry away from this army of metal and machine that is starting to make its way over. However, lying in wait, we have 4 Colossi and a small contingent of Stalkers waiting for that huge amount of people to be present. Colossi, do you think that they're a good is it a really good idea in this case, or do you think that it's one of the only tools that Protoss have? From what I've noticed, these Marauders make quick work of Colossi, so
it's kind of the only option that Believe has at the moment. He needs their area of effect to deal with the bio. Right now, he does have a lot of sentries, and he'll be able to force field, have the Guardian Shield, so he'll keep the Colossi safe. The Stalkers going off to the side prevented the bio from being able to separate and have the Marauders deal with the Colossi. This was very well done. Warpin coming down off towards the north will be able to slow down the bio just ever so much, allowing Believe to catch up here. Blink for the Colossi trying to run with their dangly legs as much as possible, but now the bio all very damaged and going to have to sit back at home, but Believe he is... Okay, he's going to keep it going slowly but surely, just wanting to get in a couple more reinforcements coming in here.
Including a couple of SCVs, apparently, as they are currently sitting there waiting, doing nothing around this army. The Stalkers are going in, being a pain in the butt, doing their best to harass a little bit. I found that one placement of that one pylon was really crafty, being able to head off Seryph's armies with the sudden influx of Zealots was a very interesting play. And speaking of which, the Zealots soaking up the majority of the gunfire coming out of the Terran army. Seryph doing his best to counterattack, but there is a wall of Stalkers in front of these Colossi, which are simply tearing apart the Terran army. There's no, Seryph needs to fall back to someplace that's a bit safer, but there's no place that's safe from these incredibly quick, very powerful Zealots and Stalkers that can just blink chase. These medevacs going down to the concentrated fire of all of these Stalkers, and the Colossi are just maneuvering their way up, slowly but surely, as 6 of them is just too much. Believe taking game 2 in this best of 3 in the lower bracket semi-finals. A very strong win over Seryph. And although Seryph did a couple of good moves, he made some mistakes too. What do you think Seryph could have done to really change the pace of that game? Where do you think he went wrong?
I'd have to say that Seryph, he wasn't able to do too much counter-aggression. He was very much he would go kind of poke, and then he'd see it fail and just pull back and sit at home. And this allowed Believe to take his lead and keep it going ever so much. And I don't really know if there's any more specific thing than that, because Believe, there is a bit of a skill gap between Believe and Seryph. To be truthfully honest, there's a reason Believe, he's all the way up #1 on the TorCraft point ranking. I'd have to say Believe just outplayed Seryph this time around, as well as the mechanical ability of Believe allowed him to maneuver his army ever so much more, and he really got to utilize the blink play this time around.
Yeah, you got to use the blink. being able to warp in his units where he did, again, that one play where he warped in his zealots behind the Terran army as it was running away was one of the cooler things I'd seen in this qualifying tournament so far. That was a really good tactical decision. It stopped them from being able to run away as quickly. They had to deal with that threat before it chased them down and like cut them to shreds. And by the time they'd finally dealt with that threat, up comes the Stalker force and the Colossus force. That, I think, was the play that kind of really defines what you're talking about right now with the whole being outplayed, in a sense. It's not really Seryph's fault so much as just Believe is that good. And there's still some stuff that Seryph can like learn from this. Maybe, like you said, be more aggressive or something like that. But, them's the breaks. Seryph is now out of this particular qualifier. And Believe is going to move forward onto the lower bracket finals, where he's going to go ahead and meet up with EJK.
Indeed, it's going to be a rematch all the way from the very beginning of the tournament. So it's going to be exciting to see. These two are very skilled players in their respective countries, of course. But first, we're going to be going to a quick break, and then we'll be back with our losers finals of EJK versus Believe.